It's time to hammer.
Now I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down! Somehow it's the best.
The YumChunks podcast.
YumChunks!
Welcome, everybody. I'm Sean.
I'm Matt.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Vince.
Good.
And this is After the Credits, the podcast about movies, games, and TV, whatever pop culture we want to talk about this week. We are YumChunks. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We are missing one of our crew today because I feel he's probably out watching Solo for like the 30th time. He couldn't be here to actually record it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris is not with us today.
It's fine.
He might be dead.
I'm just going to speculate the entire episode about what Chris would have thought about the film.
Well, take the most contrarian and then extreme black and white position that you possibly can. And then we'll spend the next 20 minutes talking you out of that opinion.
To talk him down from that ledge.
I'll take some footage or like some audio from previous episodes and just splice in his Avengers commentary into this. So Chris isn't here, but he will be back at some time. I don't know, someday. So it's just us. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Solo tonight, a Star Wars story. It's a story about Star Wars. So it's a big film. I feel like it's going to be an interesting discussion. This may be a divisive film. We'll see. But before we get into that. We just posted an episode. Man, we
cranking them out.
We're prolific.
Roll. We got this thing figured out.
Let's not
Look
go that
out,
far.
internet.
As figured out as we're gonna have it.
Yeah. So we haven't had a lot of time to, enjoy other TV shows and films since our last recording. So instead of tell you what we've been doing, we're going to tell you what we want to be doing in the future. We're going to be talking about some of things we are looking forward to. So some movies, TV that comes out in the next couple months or year. We thought that might be kind of fun to go over. If not, we'll cut it out.
Yeah.
Just throw it in garbage. Well, before we do that, I want to give a shout out to my graduating senior class of 2018. Because several of them asked me to do so. In particular, Isaiah, who said specifically if I mention him by name in that podcast, he will poop his pants. So, right?
Did he literally just poop his pants right as we were speaking?
Or is he going to do it in class?
Oh, I don't know.
He's going to save it and then
Chewy, you know what you should do?
Professor Chewy,
Yeah,
I just poop my pants.
They definitely call me Professor.
You should definitely play the podcast in class.
Okay.
See if he poops his pants.
in real time. If he doesn't, Isaiah, I'm going to need a full written report on that occurrence.
No, he just doesn't graduate. That's
okay, good.
Sorry, Isaiah, but
what am I looking forward to? I am maybe the only one that's looking forward to it this much, but I'm really looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Mm-hmm. Is anyone?
Yeah, actually, I am not.
You are not.
is it also
I'm not. No, I am too. Yeah, it looks good.
I liked the first one more than I thought I was going to. I really like that Paul Rudd is the superhero. That's the most unlikely thing about that whole situation. And given the mess that was the production of the first one, I'm surprised that I liked it as much as I did. I think I've seen it probably more than any of the other MCU movies, and I put it in my top half, which I think most people either put it somewhere in the middle or the bottom half, but I just really like that movie. So I'm excited to get more Ant-Man. I'm excited to get more Paul Rudd. I always go for more goofy, dumb Paul Rudd in my life, so I'm looking forward to that. And later on this year, I'm looking forward to the next game in the Tomb Raider series, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They just announced it's coming out in September.
Yep.
Which is a really quick turnaround because, they just announced it like a month or two ago. So, played every one of those games in the series. I'm really, really looking forward to that. So, that's me.
Awesome, yeah. I would say, movie-wise, Incredibles 2 is probably...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The trailers aren't doing a lot for me, but I think they're keeping a lot of it in the bag.
Well, they did that for the first one because everything about the Syndrome character in the first one, you saw pictures of that character in promotional materials leading up to Avengers 1, but they didn't give any hint about what his deal was or that he was the kid from the beginning of the movie or anything.
Right, like they're keeping it under wraps.
That was completely under wraps.
Yeah, so I'm definitely excited for the second one.
Though I'm going to go ahead and call it right now, and I'm going to say that Bob Odenkirk's the bad guy.
Because he's like the guy talking through the narration of the entire movie.
And then you get 5 seconds.
But have you seen that character? I don't remember seeing who's speaking.
You see him. He's like a business guy.
He's like a marketing, we got to bring back superheroes type guy. And then at the end, there's a brief glimpse of a supervillain on the TV that's in a mask. So I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah, I think that's...
Called it. Yeah, probably.
What else?
I'm excited for the next season of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. That's going to be on Friday. It airs.
Oh, cool.
So that's it? Yeah.
I actually was just decided that's going to be the next... I'm going to rewatch that. I started watching season 1 and I never finished it, so Maeve and I are going to start over from the beginning and catch up once that drops. So
it's a tasty show.
Yeah, seems like it.
I love it.
I'm looking forward to... I didn't realize Kimmy Schmidt was coming back so soon, but Arrested Development comes back depending on when we air this.
Really
but
soon.
At the time of recording, really soon. So I'm excited for season 5, Arrested Development, and early previews of it have been really positive. So I'm hopeful and excited for that. But later on in the year, gaming-wise, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but also the new Spider-Man game looks like it has a lot of potential. Could be a lot of fun. And then later in the year, I'm actually looking forward to the new Fantastic Beasts film. The original Fantastic Beasts, when I originally saw it, I was kind of lukewarm on it. But the more I watched it, the more I actually really, really enjoyed it and appreciated it for a lot of the things that it was and did. So I'm actually looking forward to that film a lot. And especially because there's not any other big holiday. Weirdly, there's not a lot of big holiday films coming out this year.
Right.
There's no MCU film. There's no Star Wars. The last Marvel film is Ant-Man and Wasp for the year. Obviously, the Star Wars film we're doing today. So there's not like the kind of big blockbuster tentpole film other than the Harry Potter in November. So
would you guys be down to talk about that first one?
Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah.
Actually, I actually have not seen it, so I think it'd be fun if I saw it right before
it might be a fun thing to do. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I saw it once in theaters, and I really mixed on that movie. Like, overall, I would say I enjoyed it, but like the more I think about it, the more I go back and forth on that movie. So
yeah, I need to watch it again. It's been like probably a few months since I've seen it. Yeah,
I feel like that'd be a good thing to do before the next one comes out. You know, if we have a down week or anything.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same thing you did the first time. You were saying you were kind of mixed on it the first couple times, or the first time you saw it, and I totally appreciate that. But I think there's a lot of things that weren't so obvious about it. When that take a couple repeated viewings to appreciate. Anyways, but yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, cool. That'd be good.
So there's some cool things coming out that there's stuff on the horizon. And there's other films that we're probably going to be talking about, even if we're not looking forward to them. Jurassic World 2.
I'm really personally excited to see whether or not Taco Bell brings back the nacho fries.
Wait, they went away?
Yeah.
What?
Wait, for Jurassic Park?
No.
They're bringing those back.
No, this is a new topic.
Oh, okay.
As long as we're talking about things that we're looking forward to. Will they, won't they? I don't know. Yeah. That's going to have a large effect on my quality of life, whether or not they do.
They better bring them back. Those nacho fries are delicious.
They're also great value. You
they are.
Fries for $1.
I mean, they brought the naked
just fries with nacho cheese, which they have at all times there. Why would they stop ordering?
They never had fries.
Oh, I guess they don't. Yeah, I guess
just
Del Taco has had fries, but it's just $1. The fries are seasoned, and it comes with nacho cheese.
You dip them in the cheese?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You could pour it on top if that's what you want, right?
If you're a savage,
right? Right, that's okay if you make it a little messy. It's all right. We'll all still love you.
Little messy boy.
Oh no, he's a little messy cheesy boy.
Hey, is anyone gonna buy Avatar when it comes out on Blu-ray?
Maybe eventually.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that too.
No, we shouldn't.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
No,
comes out on Blu-ray pretty soon.
I think I will actually get it. I don't know why.
I don't own it, and I own several of the core Blu-rays that I borrowed from Vince.
Yeah, I would really like to have those back.
Did you delete Vince's save data on those Blu-rays?
Yeah, I recorded over them on my Blu-ray writer.
He saw that I was one episode away from finishing the show, and he's like, F that. He's never going to watch this again.
I put them in my burner, and I burned them over with footage from Shrek the Musical from my high school on every disc.
I think they're better. But no, good idea, Vince. I agree. I think either a potential episode, and if not, just it would be fun to go back. And I haven't seen those in a couple years. So
look, the only reason why anyone ever followed us for anything is because of Avatar and Love of the Korra. So at some point we'll revisit that.
Yes.
I want to talk more about, because I know they're not like remastering it. I'm just worried.
No, they are.
Are they completely?
They did. Yeah, they remastered it. Yeah, Vince, they actually already released it on iTunes like earlier this year. The whole thing's remastered in 1080. And so this is just a Blu-ray release of the remaster they did for iTunes earlier this year.
Have you watched any of it?
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Does it really? God dang it! I want to see it so bad now.
And the other thing is that a lot of people, because like video essays on media is kind of the popular thing on YouTube right now. Mm-hmm. A lot more of that's starting to pop up for Avatar, just all of a sudden, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized that all the footage was super high def, and I'm like, oh right, because people have access to the high def footage, so people are making these cool video essays. So
I've been watching those. There's some good video essays out there.
There's a lot of good Avatar content on YouTube right now. But yeah, I mean, you go back and watch some of the ones, Vince, that you've probably already seen. Maybe you didn't even notice that you were watching them in 1080 and they were cleaned up.
Okay. So, neat.
That
is neat.
Yeah, really is.
Good job.
Flame me up.
Drew. Also, I want to shout out to one of Matt's students, Jackie. Do you got a Jackie in your class?
No.
Dang it. All right.
Try again. Pick another one.
Roberto?
No, I don't have Roberto.
Dang.
Ryan, why don't you share one?
Shoot, I met some of them.
Oh, right, because you came...
Yeah, Chris.
Do I have a... Yeah.
All right, shout out to you, Chris.
I don't think Chris listens.
I got one.
Okay,
Chris.
How about a Sarah?
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't think I currently have a Sarah. I think I've had Sarahs before, but I'm in trouble if I do currently have a Sarah. And Sarah happens to listen to after the credits of YumChunks podcast.
How about a Finley?
Yeah, I definitely have a Finley.
Good.
What about a Quigley Down Under?
All right, well, shout out to all of Matt students.
There you go.
Cover them all.
Except
all right,
you.
Well, cool
you know
stuff.
who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that person definitely knows.
Cool. Well, let's get into the meat of the matter.
Do we have to?
Oh, what's happening? This is happening.
this.
So yes,
were you as indifferent as I was?
Wait,
No,
we
hold
got a
on,
spoiler
Vince.
preamble. Wii U sirens going off.
Spoilers about how we felt.
Spoilers, yeah, about how we felt about
Spoiler
this film.
alert, guys. We are going to tell you all about how we felt.
Yes.
So if you don't want to know how we feel
Without
about
talking
it,
to us in
go ahead and
person,
skip the
it's
whole
going to be
episode.
ruined.
Chewy, I just want to
there's-
know, where are the facts, though, to where you're feeling? Because it's just feelings. I need to know the facts.
I need cold hard data. Yeah, we're gonna get into spoilers coming up. Although this is a prequel, you would think there's no need for a spoiler warning. There is.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It is kind of a funny thing. But yes, there are spoilers. So if you have any interest in seeing the film, stop listening or forever hold your peace or something. Yeah. Anyways, so let's get into it. Solo.
You go ahead, cut that out.
Okay.
Do you remember?
Which part? Everything up until now.
Well, all of this. I mean, honestly, I there's a part of me that hates that we're participating in the online discourse of Star Wars, which
Yeah.
after The Last Jedi, the Star Wars online culture has turned into a complete dumpster fire. And I just took a peek at some of the comment sections regarding this movie, and it's
Divisive?
it's raging on. It's
Yeah,
still a dumpster fire.
No surprise.
Very
I haven't
cool.
looked at any of the
Very
comment. I haven't looked at any of the like comment kind of stuff, but I have just been aware of people's attitudes coming into it. But again, this was before the film came out, so it's like I wonder now if people have or haven't changed or not. But yeah, it wouldn't.
Why would
the
it have?
content of the film never changes people's preconceived notions of it,
Right,
or rarely does in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say though that hopefully our discourse is hopefully elevating the average.
As far as quality of,
Yes.
I mean, critical thinking,
Yeah, right.
possibly.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, I'm not hopeful, but
Well, wait,
Well,
no, expand on that. What do you mean? You think there's a lack of critical thinking with how people are responding to this movie?
well, go on Rotten Tomatoes and look at the user score. It's 50%, but half the scores are people saying, "I refuse to see this movie," and giving it a 0. So,
Chris Schmidt.
Wait, did Chris just refuse to see the movie?
Yes, that's the whole joke. That's why he's not here.
I didn't know that. I don't.
Chris has okay.
tuned Chris
Without going into too much of Chris bashing mode, because it's not fair,
Yes.
because he's not here, I will just say the facts.
We apologize, Chris.
Chris has a moral position in that he cannot support any spin-off Star Wars movie.
He has clarified that by saying he will not support any spin-off Star Wars movie about stuff we already know. As in, like, characters and stuff. So if they do a spin-off Star Wars that's like the Rian Johnson new trilogy they've mentioned, but it's supposed to be this new trilogy that's not about the Skywalkers or the, that he's fine watching that, or possibly an Old Republic film or something like that. But if it's about Obi-Wan or Boba Fett or, like, stuff, he's
bit arbitrary.
Against that.
I don't know.
I will say it's a little bit arbitrary, but I will say this in not defense of Chris, but before seeing this movie, I will say that I neither sympathized nor understood Chris's position, but after this, I don't agree with it, but I at least understand it now.
Okay.
And we'll probably get into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
wait. Did he watch the Clone Wars show?
He did watch the Clone Wars.
Well, then he has no right to watch that show.
That is true. I mean, based on that criteria, you're right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about Chris. Again, not Chris bashing per se.
What would you call that other than Chris
to get off
bashing?
Chris topic,
Yeah,
why are we talking about Chris?
Let's just have an
Anyway.
episode where we rebuke Chris.
That's a human.
Oh man, that would
That's
be
do a clip
good.
that's
show.
gonna
Just do a
be
clip
a
show
whole
of all of his quotes.
Many episodes.
We'll talk about
We're going to
it.
be
We can
required.
have an
for
episode
that.
about each one of us, where one of us is gone and we
boy.
review each one of
After
us.
we've been doing this for long enough?
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Okay, every few years, an anniversary special. All right, it's the Sean episode.
Oh no.
Oh, this will be
All right.
good.
I will get
okay,
us
yeah.
back
To get
on
off
track.
Chris,
I think
okay,
no.
go.
Let's get us back on track. Unfortunately, though, the best thing about this movie is going to be how I get to watch Red Letter Media's commentary on this afterwards. That's what I
Well,
can
that's
say
true,
about
though.
it.
That's kind of where
Well,
we're
the
at with,
commentary that
with
was-
Star Wars as a franchise in general. I mean, if it's a good Star Wars movie, great. Another good Star Wars movie. If it's not, great. Another great Red Letter Media review.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I don't know if they
Exactly.
do one for this. They didn't do one for Rogue One, and I don't think they're going to do Last Jedi.
Plinky review or not, I still look forward to that.
No, I still look forward to the channel stuff. But I'm just saying the full Plinker reviews.
Can we stop plugging other channels?
Yeah. Also, you know what other channel's really cool is IGN. I don't know. They're not cool. Okay, well,
No, they're not
I,
cool.
I will say this about just broad
gonna say?
stroke about the film. We're going to talk about Solo, a Star Wars story.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
Oh, no, don't talk about it.
Okay, so I have lots of mixed feelings all ways, but I think something that could really well encapsulate some of my feelings is I think the premise of this idea of this film, the idea of this film is heavily flawed, and most of the issues I have with this film are with the premise of the film. The execution of the film, I actually enjoyed a lot, and I think was really well done. And I think it's hard to separate that, but I do think there's an important aspect of separating those things.
Yes.
And so that's kind of where I stand with the film, in broad strokes.
I feel like I more or less agree with that statement. Broad strokes for me, I'm going to place this film into what I'm calling the Fast and the Furious box, which is a box that I've put a lot of movies in this year, actually. But
Okay.
it's a movie that I mostly enjoyed. I had a good time watching. I'll probably never watch it again because I feel like all of the juice sucked up out of it. Like all the enjoyment that I'm going to get, I got it.
Got it in the first go.
I can't see it's a movie like you're kind of talking about. Like I don't really know what the point of this is, which is kind of how I felt going into it, also. But I don't feel bettered or anything as a person. I don't. I just kind of I got it's a cheap thrill, you know. It's like a roller coaster, but
Yeah.
do it again. It's going to be the same roller coaster. I don't know.
What are you saying, Vince?
I actually don't think it's a roller coaster. It feels like and I hate to plug Red Letter Media in again, but the way they explain like the Clone Wars, the Attack of the Clones, as like an assembly line kind of production, it kind of felt the same way by Disney. Like it was just kind of them. But I hate the fact that they pretty much made this movie and then Disney didn't like it, so they got a new director, Ron Howard, and just were like, hey, fix this to how we're gonna like it more.
Well,
I don't know. I
read
really disagree with that.
I read a review snippet saying kind of what you're. I read a snippet from a review on Rotten Tomatoes, and it said that this is intellectual property shaped into the shape of a movie. Like that's kind of how I feel like with the assembly line bit. But you're talking about like how they shot it and then they reshot it. I mean, apparently the script was written and the original directors were going off the rails with it. And if what they said is true, if that was the script that was written initially, like, gosh, hiring those two that's the worst possible decision. Like, I can't, at least where I'm standing, I feel like you could not have chosen worse directors to direct that script if the script didn't actually get rewritten. I feel like it's such a straightforward, there's no room for, given what they've done, like 21 Jump Street and Lego Movie and everything, like, of course they're going to want to improv because they probably like, well, what the heck can we do with this thing? It's so by the numbers, it's so dry. And I mean, that feels like a really corporate decision. It really feels like, okay, who's popular right now? Who's in? Like, they just announced that Logan guy is doing the Boba Fett movie, which is another movie I don't really want, but like, that seems like such Logan was real big this year, and that's who's hot with the youngsters, so throw him on a Star Wars movie. And it feels like that kind of decision. It was for the wrong reason. Yeah,
and that's what I mean too. Like, going to the Boba Fett thing, like, we have a lot of like, no one wants this film. Well, okay, obviously someone does, or at least the studios think they do. And so that's the important thing, that they're going to happen. They're going to happen whether, for some reason, if no one wants them at all, they're still going to happen. So to debate the merits of that is kind of academic at this point.
Right.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter. And that's what I mean, where we have to separate, like, I don't think we could hold the film accountable for the fact that it exists.
No, nobody exists on
Sure,
purpose.
I can't.
Exactly. That's my point, right? Like,
To be fair, I think the guy who played Han Solo was better than I thought he'd be, based on
if we get into it, I
hearing
thought
that
he
he
was
had to
actually
take
really
like
good.
acting
I
lessons.
enjoyed him.
No, and that's the thing. I think what you're getting at is if you just purely look at the content, like purely look at the dish that was served, what was created, there's good stuff in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I think that and again, this is a theoretical impossible, like, just impossible. But if you remove the IP, I think this would be like, whoa, this was a really fun movie. But there's so linked of this nebulous Star Wars everything that people have so much baggage already associated with it that it's impossible. It's just impossible to disassociate those two of the actual product from everything around it. And I guess that's what I mean. As I approached a lot of my thoughts and stuff, I tried to do as much as I can, but it's, like I said, it's impossible. But yeah, going towards your point, like, Alden Ehrenreich, I thought, like, there was a lot of, that was part of the trouble with the reshoots and acting training. And I heard it was less like actual acting lessons. It was more trying to get him to act more like Harrison Ford.
Well, what I heard was that every other actor on set had improv training.
Yes, yeah,
and that those directors they like to improv their shoots.
And
he was the only one that had no improv training, and he was going to the producer and saying, "You did not tell me that this is what I signed up for. I can act off of a script."
Yeah,
right. And now we're not sticking to it. So I've seen him in one other movie. I saw him in Hail Caesar.
Yeah,
he's great in that
thought
movie.
it was great in that too.
Yeah.
And he was different enough for sure in this than he was in that it definitely shows that it's not a one-note acting. But I thought he was really good. The touches of the Harrison Ford mannerisms, the snarkiness, some of the one-off off-the-cuff remarks, especially with Chewie. Like, to me, it just totally that's
felt
Han Solo.
natural.
Felt like Han Solo without being beholden to an impression of Han Solo.
I believed him as a young Solo about as much as I believed like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboots. I thought it was fun. Yeah. Like, it's still a slightly different flavor,
a little bit of interpretation.
But I could see you do some shifting some stuff around in your brain. You could I could see how this person could grow into the character that we know.
Yeah. I think... sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm just a little confused at the Solo movie. I thought this was the fan service, the movie. That is my impression of this film. It's just fan service. Like, I started writing this list down of every single moment that was purely fan service, usually using screen time just to talk about, hey, this is how Han got his blaster. Hey, this is how Chewie got his bandoliers. All these things.
You have that list on you?
Well, I gave up after a while, but this is that list.
What else you got on that list? I'm curious.
How the Falcon came into existence, how he met Lando, Lando's capes, like how there's a split in the front of
how
of
Jon
the Falcon.
Favreau became a CG character.
I got to comment on that CG character just real quick. As soon as that character came into being, I was like, "Oh, good, discount Rocket Raccoon." And as soon as he's on screen, I'm like, I don't remember seeing him in the trailer, so I hope he dies any minute now. And he died 5 minutes after I thought that. And as soon as he died,
feel guilty?
Maeve turned to me and she was like, I'm so glad that character's dead.
I didn't find him that annoying.
I didn't either.
He was,
In fact,
he wasn't obnoxious.
He added a little bit of charisma to the film compared to like Woody, who Harrelson. I thought he was going to be a little.
He's pretty wooden.
He was indeed.
No, he's all right. Whatever.
Besides him
How
eating
dare you.
peanuts half the movie.
Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson is a national treasure. No, he's not that.
Don't
great.
take the bait. Nobody take the bait.
No one's doing it. We're not biting this. Well, keep going down your list.
Okay. What else? Oh, the Falcon satellite getting knocked off again. Okay. The space chess. The Kessel Run.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just meeting Chewbacca. Him saying, Chewbacca's too long of a name. I'm going to call you something for short. Just like when I meet Christopher. Oh, Christopher, I can't call you that for your whole life that I know you. I'm going to come up with a nickname for you.
You know what?
That's how humans talk to each
all
other.
the time when I sit around and I see you guys interact, I always think, man, when did Ryan start calling Christopher Chris?
Right? You want to know the origin of it.
gotta know.
But I also want to
Now you
know
get
the
to
thought
know.
of why he started doing. Like,
Yes.
Yes. You get it. Yeah.
the premise of a nickname. Explain to me.
This movie is only titled what it is because that random Imperial officer was like, "I'll call you Solo."
I knew it was going to be a long movie.
Yeah.
Also, when they were watching the ad and the Imperial March is playing, and I went, "Oh, John Williams' score is canon in this universe."
Okay, I thought about that too. Sean, did you pick that up?
No, I didn't.
Which makes me think. Wait, does that mean
Was it diegetic though?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
I'm
Yes.
pretty sure because
It
you
was
hear it.
in-
Yeah, it was.
through a
It was
crowd,
so weird.
as if it's playing off of speakers
It's an
in that
ad.
airport.
Oh, I did not hear
It's
that.
an advertisement to join up for the Imperial.
I mean, I
Game.
remember the advertisement, but I just don't remember the music from that.
Which kind of blows my mind in terms of the meta, because
Yeah.
I always assumed when I was watching these films and they were playing the Imperial March that it was something that a movie was playing to me. But no, all the characters
In
in
space.
space.
It's plastic.
Wait. So when the Emperor in Empire flies down his little ship and comes out of the ship and there's all the troops lined
Yeah.
up, is there a marching band off stage?
Yeah.
Off screen that's
Yeah.
playing the
There-
Imperial March?
I mean, that adds. It's building
We're
up to the Star
expanding
Wars
this
universe. Yeah.
And then the rebels are like, shoot, we can't afford that kind of
We need our own
entire
theme,
marching
though.
band.
All right, get some strings, some woodwind. Like, we could do that.
Like a mariachi band.
Do you think like when they're in like their space elevators, like it has like elevator Imperial March music? So it's like
Just like the Muzak style version.
Yeah.
Well, now I can't think about it.
I would love that.
Yeah.
What other John Williams Star Wars songs exist in this universe?
The Jurassic Park theme is also part of like in the world.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, they just have
Oh.
they have speakers next to all the dinosaurs, just in case like anybody sees them. So it goes dun, 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 dun.
The two moving herds.
And when they see Darth Maul, they play.
Well, they also have Sam
Duel
Neill
of Fate,
saying that.
right? Darth Maul is playing that from
On
his
his
side.
hollow projector.
And Daenerys
Hey
is
guys,
like,
don't
"Are you
forget.
playing that?"
Yeah, we got it. We see your face tattoos
Yeah.
and your
Do
horns.
you remember my double lightsaber? Remember that?
I have this, by the way.
Yeah,
I still have it.
I have it.
I mean, what I got. They mentioned Bosk. They had
Yep.
Minoc references.
Yep.
Obviously, things like Hut. This is. I don't know if this is fan service. I don't know if anyone else picked up on this. So I don't know if it's quite fan service. But the Back to the Future reference. Did anyone get that?
Please.
Okay, so in the scene when they are landing on Kessel, I think, or one of the scenes where they're like he's skating the Millennium Falcon through like rubble.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I learned this from my street racer friend back home. His name was Needles, and he died in a street racing accident.
I didn't even hear him say that.
Yes.
I heard him say that. Back to the Future.
Back to the
Needles
Future
is,
2 is the street racer Marty races
Oh
against.
yeah.
Needles is his name.
Because if you raced him, he wrecks the
Okay.
car and
Yeah.
then he gets
Yep.
fired.
That's right.
So I was like, whoa, that's camp. That has to be intentional, right?
Would Ron Howard have
I'm sure it
anything to do with
was.
Back to the Future?
Yeah,
What? No,
They
No,
would-
that was
they
Robert
would-
Zemeckis.
yeah.
It was Robert,
Yeah.
but
What's the connection
still,
there?
just like
Weird.
I watched Back to the Future a couple days ago. It was on TV, and there's the Star Wars obvious reference to Star Wars and Back to the Future, so it's like poetry.
And the,
I
the-
would wait. Okay, let
Yeah.
me just say because I think we've kind of gone off the rails with this a little bit.
It's
There's not a lot.
it's fine.
There's not a linear. That's okay
It's
though.
okay.
I think the first like quarter of this movie when they're on Han Solo's home planet, was like a dark. I couldn't tell what was going on. It was just a dark mess. It was a dark editing mess. Like,
I kind of feel like the whole movie was a dark mess. I kind of wish they had color graded a little bit higher. I don't know.
I feel like the first half more than the second half for me, but yeah, I agree.
In fact, it reminded me of that one SNL skit, the Robert Goulet's play, where it just feels like everything's chaos. People are just wandering onto his camera. This like, what is going on right now?
Let me say this in terms of the fan service stuff, and this is where I think I am going to depart from maybe your guys' opinion. To me, the fan service stuff did not detract from the film. And this is what I mean because to me, all of that was part of the premise. When you're making a Solo film, I knew all this stuff. Like, of course they're going to have the Kessel Run. Of course they're going to make references to this and that and this and that and this and that. None of the stuff that they did, though, ever detract from the story, the characters, or any of that. It was just stuff that I was expecting. And beyond that, I felt like this was kind of like their counter to The Last Jedi in a lot of ways. Because The Last Jedi, again, I love Last Jedi, don't get me wrong. Last Jedi is brilliant. It's one of my favorite of the Star Wars films.
It's dangerous that you mentioned that.
Taking a stance. Taking a stance. No, I also...
No, but
I like
but there was
Last
no...
Jedi.
But there wasn't fan servicey. It wasn't a fan service Star Wars film.
Correct.
But this, they're like, we're going all in fan service without it being like toxic or, all the stuff. It was like, no, we're going to indulge in the fan service. And I understand the fan service kind of like inducing a bit of a groan, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Why? Why does that stuff make you groan? And I'm not saying it doesn't to me. Sometimes it does. But like, why is the initial reaction to pull back when you see those things in films?
I actually have thought about this as well. And I actually agree that this film is as opposite as a Star Wars film can be from The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I had to ask myself, well, why do I like Star Wars?
Yeah.
And I think the major reason that I kept coming back to is that it's different. It was bold and innovative for what it was when it came out. Mm-hmm. And it continued to be. Even, as much as I hate to say it, it so kind of was, at least for the prequel films. And one reason why I appreciated The Last Jedi so much is that it felt like it kept trying to push the boundaries of what Star Wars could be. And maybe not, obviously, feel free to disagree with me. And I think for me, the fact that this film was so grounded in the past, in the fan service, not that the fan service detracted, like I kind of agree with that statement, but I think it helped further the point that this film was, inexorably stuck in what old Star Wars is, and resting on those laurels, rather than trying to push this saga forward, trying to expand the boundaries, and keep doing what Star Wars has always done best. Telling bold, innovative stories in a science fiction fantasy universe. And I think that this film was still a very fun adventure film. It did all those things great, but I think it played it safe.
Yeah, I agree. I will say it played it safe. So yeah, I'm not. It's definitely not a bold, revolutionary new take on that. I guess to me, Star Wars has been a lot of things, but it hasn't always been bold, new. Like,
I agree.
Like, especially because there's now 10, 12 Star Wars films. I would say arguably half of them maybe have been, right? Like,
yeah,
sure.
Like, and even those, in some aspects they have, and some they haven't, right? No one could argue that the prequels were bold in terms of thematic or storytelling or anything, but in terms of technology, yeah, definitely. And the original, probably in all fronts, but Rogue One, not so much. And that, so anyways, my point being is that it's mixed, and just for the sake, like a lot of franchises, like Last Crusade. You guys were talking briefly before we started recording about how Han Solo, everything significant about Han Solo happens in 3 days, right? Like you're right, and it's funny to think about. But like, think of Last Crusade. The opening of Last Crusade, like everything that about Indiana Jones happens on that one little adventure in the Boy Scouts.
I kept thinking about he gets that little scar on his chin, like
he gets his whip, he gets his hat, he gets his fear of snakes, he get all that stuff.
No, you're right.
I think you're posing, why does the fan service annoy us?
Yes,
and I think that point is a better explanation of why it annoys me a little bit, is because it feels very written. Like, a lot of times the fan service doesn't feel like it happens naturally, which is why we're pointing out, like, oh, isn't it convenient that every single important thing we know about Han Solo happened on this one adventure? Because it feels written. It feels like the writers are giving this to me, and it's not organically happening in that universe.
I suppose. I mean, there's definitely credit for that. I agree that if it doesn't feel organic, whether it's fan service or not, that is definitely,
I like fan service if it's incorporated well.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good example.
Well, that's my point, though. I think just the very nature of fan service, the label we call it, we already instill a sense of, it's bad just because we're calling it that. Where I'm trying to take a more, objective point of view. It's like, well, it's a solo film. What are you expecting? Like, I'm not saying it to you specifically, but I'm just saying...
Well, you looked me right in the eye.
I know, I
looked
right. Anyway, I don't know. It's an interesting topic of conversation, I suppose. I guess I'm trying to get that... To me, it's not so one-sided.
Right. But that goes back to your point about saying the difference between the premise, right? Because, yes, you're right. It's a Star Wars film. We have to expect that. And that's part of the premise, right? We're walking in with that expectation. You can't get away from it.
And the premise is... Didn't you ever want to know what Han Solo was all about? And I'm like, well, I learned that in the first scene that he's in A New Hope.
Yeah.
I learned everything I need to know about him at the beginning of New Hope because he's a good character and he's well written.
Yes,
and
exactly.
because he's a well written, beloved character, there's somehow this notion that we need to give him this entire thing. And it's like, no, we love him because he was well established in the first place.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is like, where does it stop? Like, it's not like we saw him being born in this film. Oh, when are they going to do the prequel to the Solo thing? What's about his days
dad,
on the streets of Corellia, or his father?
Or how did he get those dice? Like, right?
Yeah, like so, like at what point does it become irrelevant to like exactly what you're saying? Like, we know the character because of how he was introduced and portrayed in the original. We don't like. I don't know. There's something that you say, Ryan, like the prequels kind of always seem inferior to you. While I don't necessarily agree with wholeheartedly, I do completely understand your point. Is that if it's a prequel, you're already you're already reinforcing this idea of inferiority because you're already told the story.
Yeah,
right.
If it was part of that story, like if it was it's just interesting enough to be part of that story, it wouldn't be a prequel. It would be part of that original story.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think a prequel. I think it should exist if it can make you look at the original in a new light.
Yeah.
Like it puts certain things in a new context, or gives certain like a villain's motivations that you didn't realize, or if it writes history to where you feel like, oh, okay, that makes me think about the events of the original a slightly different way. I feel like that's how a prequel could best expand. Right? Because that's what a sequel is supposed to do. It's supposed to expand.
Yes.
Expand, yeah.
And I don't know necessarily that this expanded anything.
Right, and I think that's sort of like intrinsically one of the problems. This is problematic of a prequel that is always bound by ending at a certain place, right? And that's because of the way time works, that it moves forward.
That we don't
it's just a major restriction of the laws of physics.
We exist in non-linear time, guys. Let's review films in that way.
I mean, while we're on the topic, I like in Rogue One how it expanded and changed the context of A New Hope is that when Darth Vader boards the ship at the beginning and he's like, look, Leia, I know you were at that thing. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Now, Rogue One makes the opening of Star Wars hilarious.
Yeah.
That's true.
It adds. And if nothing else, that's what Rogue One does for me. Right?
Yeah, very true.
That's obviously what I was talking about this whole time.
We got to the heart of it,
right.
For sure. Okay, well, so going on the idea of that, how it changes your perception of this universe or this world, and that the best a prequel could hope for is to do that. And this is maybe another controversial part, and just pure spoilers. Darth Maul. I'm going to say right off the bat, I loved it. I freaking love Darth Maul. I love Darth Maul in this movie.
Okay, I love Darth Maul, period. But I was... Okay, so me and Sean saw it together. And after the credits were rolling, I started laughing. And I'm like, when does this film take place? What is the timeline of this film?
Well, okay, do we want to talk about that? And we want to talk about Rebels and Clone Wars
spoilers?
We're
talking about
that's
my
great.
point.
Yeah. Are you caught up on Rebels?
No, I haven't even watched any Rebels. Well, I watched like one.
Do you care if I...
I've watched season 1 of Rebels, so I'm not caught up. But I've watched all the Clone Wars, and that's enough. I know enough just by watching the Clone Wars.
Okay, so I shouldn't spoil anything from Rebels.
It doesn't matter too much. I don't mind. I'll watch them at some point. But the point being, for listeners who maybe have not watched those, is that it kind of helps explain that if you had watched those other things. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love this. To me, the revelation of being Darth Maul was just so bat-ass crazy that it was like, oh my god, they're doing it. I can't believe they actually do that in a mainstream Star Wars film. Because as much as they say that Clone Wars and Rebels is canon, it's still like quote unquote canon.
Right.
It's like
he did air quotes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. You can't see me.
No, I know what you mean. Especially like off topic a bit, but Star Wars Rebels canonized Star Tours in universe.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, okay, is this canon? Because like, yeah, it's like, and I liked that in Rogue One they had Forrest Whitaker's character. I hate that character. I don't think he was done well at all in that movie, but I like that they referenced.
Yeah, but
the Clone
even that
Wars.
was just it never relied on any. He couldn't stand on his own as his character from Rogue One.
Yeah, but I like that they connected to the
Reference it, at
cartoons,
least.
and it's making it feel like it's all
Yeah.
kind of how Marvel does it. Where it's like we just have these little strings, we have these little connected,
Yeah, I made the same comparison, like how Coulson is dead in the movie universe, even though it's the same universe, but he's alive in the TV show. So yes, it's canon, again, air quotes, but they're never going to incorporate Coulson back into the movies. It's like we maybe thought they were never going to do that with Darth Maul.
But that's why, to me, it's just like, it's indulgent in all the best ways, and that almost seems contradictory, but it very much is like, yeah, it's all like we're putting our money where our mouth is. If you really love Star Wars, go watch Clone Wars and Rebels. Go watch the Forces of Destiny stuff we're doing. Go watch. This is more than just some little movie now. It's everything. We're having TV shows. Like, this is all part of it now.
Right.
And it's still a revelation for the people who know that Darth Maul is alive because he had a robot spider body for his time, and then they built it, and he fought Obi-Wan and it crashed. Like, all of this is canon, guys. For those who haven't watched Clone Wars, this all happened, and this explains how Darth Maul is still alive. And it's just so, like, it's so insane. It's so funny, and to me, I was like, oh my god, they're doing it. I'm all in. I'm all in for that. So that's why I liked it. But I do recognize it being like not everyone's is gonna be, and
I'm real mixed about that because I like everything that you just said.
Yeah,
that's what I felt that I'm like, okay, cool, they're going all in on it, but at the same time I'm just like, it also feels like there's an element of like, well, this movie's got nothing else going on, so what can we do to make people feel fond things about it on their way out of the theater? Oh my god, Darth Maul showed up. Can you believe it? That's so easy.
I mean, like, what are they taking away from this film? They're taking away that? Like,
that had nothing to do it had nothing to do with anything.
At the end of the film. Yeah, didn't it?
I mean, it does very much feel as you could kind of see the machinations of a studio hand. Like, okay, we're doing a prequel and we recognize exactly what we just talked about, how prequels by their very nature can't be that surprising. Unless you throw in this, like, out of nowhere thing, right?
But imagine if they don't make any more solo movies.
Yeah.
Which I would be fine with, because I didn't think this movie was that great. Or if they... Okay, so they announced that Boba Fett's happening.
Yeah.
There's rumors that Obi-Wan's going to happen. And if those all take place around the same time period, Darth Maul could be the guy again.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of people agree that killing Darth Maul in the prequels was like the biggest mistake they made.
Right.
And so like if they're trying to be like, this is his time now, he's gonna get his trilogy of where he's the bad guy.
So somehow Solo, Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan are a Darth Maul trilogy? Like, because it was always Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, they have their final showdown. And
but if they don't make these movies, right? If they never make another movie during this time period where Darth Maul doesn't show up as a bad guy, what was the point of that?
Yeah,
right. No. I think this, could we call this like a phase 1 for Star Wars? Is this the same as friggin' Sam Jackson showing up at the end of Iron Man? Right? Can't we kind of equate these two?
It does. That's what I'm saying. It does feel very much like that.
Now they're doing the Star Wars one.
Yeah. But they have such a small window of time where they can play with this, though. That's the thing.
Luke is already born, and he's 10 years old. You only got a couple years to get this done. Because I figure they got to kill Darth Maul before Rogue One, or right? Like all that stuff. So I could see Obi-Wan having a confrontation with Darth Maul, and there's something. And
did you like when he stands up and they made it a point for his legs to go clanka, clanka, clanka?
Exactly.
Hey guys, look at the robot legs.
They had to get someone doing Foley, just going clanka, clanka, clanka.
Rattling their car keys.
Yep. Also, they made it a point to show he was colored, or he had like red and...
You want to try that again?
Ryan Davis, what have you done?
In the hologram, they made it a point to show that there was red. Have you ever seen color in a hologram before? It's always that bluish...
In the Star Wars hologram.
Yeah, I think it's always bluish hues.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe in the whatever the other racist stereotype the Trade Federation guys in the prequels?
I don't think so. Besides, it doesn't matter because in Empire Strikes Back, the first time we see a giant person hologram is the Emperor, and he's blue.
Yeah,
he's a big blue
guy.
Yeah,
he's a big blue blob.
Is maybe Snoke? No, Snoke.
Nope, he's blue blob too.
Big blue blob.
Yeah, it is fun. Man, you mean they have technology for color holograms all this time?
I know. That's what I was thinking about.
It's just real expensive.
Yeah, I guess
nobody needs to spring for the color hologram machine.
Underworld, they have the money to waste on colored holograms. Or colorful holograms.
You want to try that again? How do you feel about that, Vince?
How do you feel about the fan service How do you feel about Darth Maul, Vince?
There's nobody in the right mind should have an opinion because he was in it for 2 seconds, and there's no reason.
Oh, well, none of us are in our right mind then.
Well, there's no reason for him to be in it, just in general. Like, I don't know.
Sorry.
Also, Emilia Clarke, man, it's a good thing she has Game of Thrones going for her. Because
I will say, I thought all the performances I thought were good. I like her in Game of Thrones, but in Genesis, I thought she was bad. The movie is bad, and I thought she was bad in it.
No reason to talk about it, really.
But she was good in this. I thought she was
I
liked she had a really good performance. Everyone I thought was good in this.
But it's just is she going to be a Sith or something? Is that where this was going?
No, I didn't get that sense she was a Sith.
It hasn't happened, so we don't know.
Oh, also fan service Terrace Kasi?
Yeah.
Like
PlayStation 1 game.
I was like,
PlayStation 1 game. Did you catch that?
Do you remember that?
When she beats up all the guards in the room and they're like, how do you know how to do it? And she goes, I studied Terrakasi.
And is that PlayStation 1 fighting game with Star Wars characters? Oh, it was Star Wars The Masters of Terrakasi.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Here's the thing, though. Does
good.
Terrakasi exist in other media, and did it exist before
that's
the PlayStation 1 game?
Too. I don't know.
Because if not, that's incredible.
But even
that's
so,
amazing.
it's still expanded universe stuff. Mm-hmm. It definitely wasn't in any other, mainstream.
So, but that game was prior to the blowing up of the original EU.
Yeah, it was about the same time.
But
it was before the prequels, but it was right before the prequels.
They've also been picking and choosing things to recanonize from the original.
That's true.
EU. Yeah. So, PlayStation 1, Master of Terrakasi is now canon. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. All those characters really did get together that one day and fight each other Mortal Kombat style.
That's established.
I hope they canonize the Han Solo dance game for
the Kinect.
Xbox Kinect. And the song. Yes. They said that the Imperial March exists in universe.
That's true.
Han Solo
could
very easily exist in this universe.
I'll buy it. So all that kind of crazy fun stuff, to me, that's what I mean, whereas like I'm okay. All that stuff is the idea, and even that stuff I think made me enjoy it on if nothing more than a visceral level, it still made me enjoy it. The motivation behind it all, that could be murky and stuff, but the execution of all those things I still think worked for the most part. I agree the beginning was kind of dark and kind of muddly. I felt it was too long before him to get into his crew, and for that the central like conflict to kind of take off. But I really like the second half more. Like once they do the Kessel Run, I mean, maybe part of it is because it's the Kessel Run, but I just think though that was one of the most exciting scenes when they're escaping and he's going through the maw, and the unnecessary Cthulhu creature.
I liked all that. As long as we're talking about the structure, of the movie, like I would have been fine if the movie ended after or shortly after the Kessel Run. To be honest, I feel like all the allegiance switching and all that did nothing for me.
I did feel very convoluted. Yeah. I think if you were to stop and really break that down, I think like it doesn't.
I don't think it would make sense.
I don't think I
was thinking of Now You See Me during that, and
I'm
like, if I go back and rewatch,
let's not go.
It's not that bad, but I was thinking while I was watching it, if I go back and rewatch this, knowing how this plays out, will this make sense? And I'm like, I don't think it will.
Well, I get the sense in terms of Beckett's character, I didn't get the sense he was betraying the entire time. I thought it was just a final little thing. But
I guess what I'm confused about is Daenerys' character. She looks at him riding the or the elevator, and like, oh, I know something you don't know, and then he's like, no, I got this, but I know something you don't. But then it ends up being nothing. She doesn't know anything. That's why I was.
Nothing means anything.
Yeah.
I guess she doesn't know anything.
She doesn't. That's what that whole scene doesn't play out right in my
because
head.
you think that she's going to betray him, but she doesn't, but then she does, but then she doesn't.
I feel like everybody's making it up as they go, and then they just hang out with whoever survives the encounter. And say, I was working with you the whole time. Wink.
I mean, and I think that to an extent it's intentional, because essentially it's as much as the original trilogy was a Western, a space Western, I think this one they just went full on. This is just a pure Western.
Sure, yeah.
Right, it was just cowboys and outlaws.
Yeah.
They're doing some heists. There's, the Cloud Riders, what were, the bandit kind of things. They're just like, the stereotypical Native American Indians, just like raiders and stuff. And like all of this stuff was a Western. It was a Western. Yeah. Through and through it was a Western. Sure. And so I think a lot of that stuff worked on that level. And I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah, how did Han get in front of Beckett?
In front?
When he was taking the petroleum back to the ship. How did he get in front of him?
The unobtainium.
The unobtainium. How did he get in front of him?
I don't know.
You mean like physically standing in front of him?
Yeah.
Walked.
I don't know. You mean in the elevator?
No, when they were walking out in the desert.
Oh, I don't know.
He had a good 10-minute head start with Chewie.
Oh, I don't know.
One of them got tired and stopped for a little bit.
I like Chewie too. He was good, I guess.
I mean, as long as if we're talking about fan service and cheap fan service, and it, I was saying it recontextualizes things. I do like that they meet in essentially a monster pit, where they end up in Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah. They were
that if you watch Return of the Jedi, you go, oh, now they met in a monster pit, and now they're helping each other get out of them. Whatever. I like that.
Yeah, and even Return of the Jedi made me remember the mask that Lando wears.
Yeah,
in Jabba's palace, it's the same mask and stuff. Which again, it's fan servicey, but it's yeah, okay, I guess he has a mask on his ship. They just wear the things.
I mean, I think can we all agree that Donald Glover was probably the most charismatic and best part of the movie?
I actually was disappointed by Donald Glover's performance.
Really? I wasn't disappointed. I liked him a lot.
I was looking forward to it more than what I got out of it.
Maybe.
I also feel like he was trying to do a weird accent for half the movie, and I really feel like he was just he wasn't trying to be Lando, he was trying to be Billy D. Williams.
I got that sense a little bit. I think part of it was that because I thought Ehrenreich was so good, to me, I was expecting Glover to be more of kind of the more where my spotlight's going to be. And so next to Ehrenreich, he didn't shine as bright. And so he just was okay. He was good, but I didn't think he was amazing.
I actually kind of wanted a little more from him. I wanted to kind of ham it up a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Also, it was. What about the relationship him and the robot had? That was kind of cool and interesting.
I was confused.
We're going to address this.
Sexually confused.
Yeah, I was too.
Well, maybe, but I mean, even that is just kind of. I mean, obviously, there's been discussion. And
this movie's going to make me
Lando being pansexual. Whatever. That aside, I'm just saying, just purely on a character level, the relationship between those characters and the robot character in this movie, like the idea that she's now the Millennium Falcon, is that part of I guess it doesn't. That's irrelevant, I guess. Or is it? I don't know.
Look, the whole thing makes me really uncomfortable.
Let's change topic.
Okay. We'll avoid the robot love.
Talking about real love.
But it does. But
we're talking about robot love.
Although this is a good, interesting topic, I had this conversation with some other friends. Is that as much as it's so weird that there's this droid thing in the Star Wars universe. And it's well, why? Obviously, they're sentient beings in this fantasy world. It's clear they all have their autonomy to an extent. But when you think about it, what robots in the Star Wars franchise do have their own autonomy? Other than IG-88. He's the only robot I can think of. Every other one, not that they're slaves or anything like that, but they're always serving by someone else.
I've always wondered, even as a kid, about the robot sentience in this universe because of the scene in the original trilogy where the little trash can bot's upside down and they burn his feet, and I'm like, he's screaming.
Why was that programmed to feel pain?
Look, Disney's going to make these movies forever. Yeah. Right? They're going to eventually run out of things to do. I'm fine with Robot Uprising Liberation plot. I'm okay with Matrix or iRobot plot. That's fine. When we completely run out of stories to tell in the Star Wars universe, literally explore anything.
First, they're going to make a WALL-E, where it's just going to be a droid, just doing its thing.
Look, if this movie has planted the seeds for us to accept the idea that robot uprising can exist in Star Wars, that's fine.
That's, if nothing else,
we'll look back on this movie as the one, like, no, really, like
Maybe they can do like an animated series spin-off called Droids or something.
Nah.
Well, there was a lot to talk about. Does anyone have any other really relevant Star Wars Solo? Anything that we didn't touch on?
It was all right.
It was all right. I think I probably liked it more than most of you, but I think it's because I'm just kind of leaning into a lot of the stuff that I know is machinations of the kind of. But for whatever reason, I'm okay with it with this film, and I totally understand if people aren't as much. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed it.
No, Sean, it was just okay.
It was just okay.
Sorry, Sean.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm wrong on that one.
I would
okay.
also like. I
right.
think this has been a pretty strong summer so far for movies. I mean, like or at least for like entertainment in 2018. Like you start at Black Panther, and then you could say Avengers. I mean, I really like Deadpool 2. I mean, there's been a lot of solid action adventure kind of movies.
All of those movies sound very familiar. It's like we talked about them. Every one of those.
Vince liked Deadpool 2 so much that he went right out of his way to listen to our episode about it.
That's exactly right.
No, I agree, and it was kind of interesting because we were talking about earlier in the episode. But I after the summer, I don't know really what's coming out. It feels like this year's definitely front loaded in terms of like the big entertaining blockbusters.
Yeah,
hopefully entertaining.
I feel like there might be one thing that we're forgetting about.
Yeah, I don't know.
That seems like a really weak winner if it's just Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
there's probably something. Maybe there's some DC thing.
When does Aquaman?
Yeah, maybe
come
Aquaman's coming out.
When is that happening?
That might be December.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and go on a limb and say it's Thanksgiving section.
Yeah, I think it's the end of the year. Which I like James Wan, but he's not even doing it anymore, is he? It's not even James Wan.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's DC. I don't know about that.
It does say it's coming out this year.
Well, there you go. There you go, folks.
You heard it
All
here
your
first.
DC news is shaped from
Aquaman release date. You heard it here first.
Cool. Well,
Cat's killing me, guys.
yeah, I know. Chewie is just melting over here.
Oh yeah, December 21st.
Oh yeah, you did hear it here first. December 21st. That'll be your big Christmas film. Get the family together.
It's a Christmas present.
Yeah. Just break in the first day of winter. Go see some Aquaman. Well, that's Solo. I think it's, like we said, it's a potentially divisive film. I think if you just judge the film on its own merits, I don't think it could be. At worst, it's serviceable. At best, it's fun.
I agree.
But I could
it's
see
better
why
than the
it could be so
prequels.
controversial.
I will say that. Like, it's nowhere near
Yes,
as bad
I
just from
agree.
like a.
That's I think the most obnoxious thing about the dumpster fire of the internet conversation is that like anybody thinks any of the prequels are better than any of these new Disney Star Wars movies.
Yep.
I can't, like, even at worst, it's
yeah, that's my point.
Still miles better than
that's
any
what I'm
of the
saying. At
prequels.
worst, it's serviceable. Like it's still a movie,
but still a competently made film.
Yes.
Maybe not a good one, which I won't even say one way or the other. But it is a movie.
Yes. Yes. Cool. Well, if you have thoughts about Solo and you don't want to,
I just need to comment on.
Yes.
I just need to comment that our final place that we landed on this movie is that it's definitely a movie.
it's definitely a movie,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
We're taking a bold statement here.
It's definitely a movie.
Going out on a limb.
right.
But yeah, let us know
Wrap
what you
this
think. You could email us at YumChunks@gmail.com. Leave a comment or a review. Feel free to leave a review on iTunes or Google Play, because that bumps up our
It's
viewership.
a thing, I guess.
Yeah, you could review if you give us a good review. I guess
Or on iTunes.
if it's a bad review, I guess you could still do it, but please, maybe make it a good review though.
Be nice.
Give
Just
us
be nice.
constructive criticism.
Yeah, give us
How
constructive.
about that? We can be
Why are we awful? Don't just tell us
What
why.
can we do to be not awful?
Yeah, exactly.
We would appreciate that.
But that wraps it up for us. In the meantime, we'll be talking about some more movies and coming up. We're going to be talking about the new God of War video game next episode, so stay tuned for that. And we got E3 coming up this summer, a handful of other things. So we got a lot of stuff down the pipe, and we hope you guys are excited for that and going to listen. But until then, this has been YumChunks, and thanks for staying after the credits.
Yeah. Made up a little
That was
tagline.
good. I like that.